Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Live with Ty. Today, joining us is Morgan Stuart. Now, when it comes to softball coaching, when it comes to anything sports, and also redefining yourself, who you are as a person, and what does confidence look like for you? She has it all, and she's going to walk us through how she won a national championship, but also how she's teaching winners through defense. Stay tuned.
Live with Ty starts now.
She is here. Let's get after it. Hey, Morgan, how are you?
Hey, good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Well, welcome to the show. So happy to have you here. We have this segment on the show called Hot Takes with Ty. So every single guest shares a crazy hot sports take. So the last guest said the next A-level athlete. So think about your LeBron James, like your Sumi Lees, all those type of athletes. They're going to come from B-level sports because of social media and clips and virality, where somebody with the biggest personality might not play the craziest sport, but they are going to have the most attention, which then makes them an A-lister. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, social media definitely impacts so much. And I mean, I guess I would have to agree. I'd have to agree that there's going to be a lot of people in the spotlight that might not have this crazy freak of nature talent, but they've got a talent in connection. And that's largely what social media is. So, I mean, I guess I'd have to agree.
You agree?
I don't
Okay,
know.
so maybe it's not that crazy of a hot take after all, you know? Maybe it's not. Maybe it's
Maybe
not.
not. I don't know.
Maybe not. Well, I was actually also seeing that the last person that you interviewed actually had the same exact name as me, Tyler Johnson. I thought that was kind of crazy, which is actually crazy, you know? Small worlds. But I want to hop right into it. Your story is so amazing. It's beautiful. I want to ask you kind of the questions that probably a lot of people that get coached by you, that work with you. Why softball? What drew you to that sport initially, growing up?
Initially, growing up, I wanted to play baseball with my brothers. I have
Okay.
two younger brothers, and we would just be outside playing catch. I loved the sport of baseball. They got bored of it because it's a very different sport than like a football or basketball.
Correct.
It's not as fast. So when they decided to go away from it, I had a friend that wanted me to try out for softball, and I guess I'm a very loyal person because I just stuck with it over and over, despite it being hard, despite my brothers not wanting to play it. I just stuck with it.
And when did that, I guess, turn in from, let's say, just a passion to something, hey, I can kind of make a career out of this, or maybe this could help me with college? When did you start to have those conversations? And what was that transition of you're playing in high school and now you're playing at the D1 level?
Yeah, with travel softball, those conversations happen really early,
Okay.
which some would argue is it might be toxic for kids, but
How early
that's
are we
a
talking?
different conversation, I guess. We're talking at this time, because kids are specializing really early, we're 10, 11, 12 years old. Yeah.
Wow,
Of
so you
like,
are
hey,
just starting middle school when you are thinking about college already. Is that correct?
I was probably a little bit later just because
Okay.
I'm 36 now. So my generation of growing up in the sport, we were a little bit more realistic, I would
Okay.
say. So I didn't start to have those conversations, I guess, until eighth grade, ninth grade of like,
Gotcha.
hey, is this something that you are serious about? What level are you trying to strive for, kind of thing?
Wow. And then when you were, let's say, narrow down your options, you landed with, University of Washington, ended up winning a national champion. Congrats on that. That's massive. What were some of the factors that you really considered where this is where I want to take my talents?
Factors I considered at the time was the Pac-10 conference, which was the most dominant of all softball conferences. It was close to home, so my parents would be able to see where I was going. I wanted a big football school. I wanted that experience. So Division I level was what I was pursuing. And ultimately, it was how bad the school wanted me.
Okay.
I don't know if that sounds bad or not, but my
Great.
choice was between Arizona and Washington, my final two. And Arizona said, hey, we've got a 95% scholarship for you, and we would love for you to play third base. And growing up, I was always a shortstop, and I'm like, I guess they don't really want me, which is like, I don't know, as a high school kid, you're just like, that's kind of all you know.
Yeah,
So
of
I
course.
decided on Washington based on multiple factors, but that was kind of the deciding one.
And then when you're making that transition to playing collegiate sports, because a lot of people that watch this podcast, they are in that transition, right? What were some of the hardest things, or also some things that you might have thought were really hard, but turned out to be really easy when you're making that transition from playing, travel competitive into you're at the Mecca in D1 when Pac-10 was a thing? Like, what was that transition like for you?
I think one of the things kids think about is how, wow, this is going to be my everyday. I'm not just going to practice on Wednesdays and the weekend. It's every single day. There's something and your schedule is packed. A lot of the questions that I get are, hey, what does the day in a life of an athlete look like? And
All
as much as
consuming.
it's like daunting, to me, that was probably the easiest part because you just fall in line and you
Okay.
follow your schedule. There's not really a way for you to not show up.
Yeah, of
That's
course.
like the really bad cases are like, okay, this isn't for you if you're falling off of your schedule. But for the majority of people that are like nervous, that are kind of perfectionists, want to do everything right, that part is, it's almost going to be a security blanket for you. Like, okay, you can't really mess up because you've
Okay.
got everything scheduled out.
Okay, got you. And what about some other things that, some roadblocks that prospective students might run into when they are now in that division level, and it is every single day?
Big roadblocks would be if you struggled at all in high school with your classes, college is a different level.
Okay.
So that's something that you need to figure out in terms of like get yourself a tutor, get yourself help at the beginning, not when grades are about to come out, but like at the very beginning. Just know that that's something. And then I think secondly, mostly is the separation of your identity from you as a player versus you as a person. I think if you don't have that clear separation and that ultimate self-worth in you as a person, it's going to be very difficult for you to separate that once you get to college, especially with social media now. People are just like trolling you on your social media if you have a bad game. It's really difficult, I think, for athletes now to have that separation.
Wow, so you're saying for yourself, were you able to figure out, this is my purpose of who I am as a person as well as a player before you got to college? Because I feel like, let's say, even from my journey playing sports and also a lot of my other teammates, when you get to college, that's when everything merges. I felt like actually, for a lot of players that I know, they had two separate identities because you weren't playing a sport every single day. You went to high school, then you played with your club. So two different people. Now you go to college and then you're meshed as one. So it was kind of like the inverse. So how were you able to crack the code earlier on in your collegiate career? That's really intriguing to me.
Oh, I definitely wasn't. That's just my
Okay.
advice because
Okay.
I was not. Like, I think by my junior year, I was so enmeshed with, like, I had the same identity. Like, I am a softball player, I am a student
Okay.
athlete. If I struggle with my sport, I'm going to struggle in my life. And that's something I wish on nobody. And it's like, if you figure that out, of how to like have that self-talk, like, okay, I had a bad game, but my family still loves me, but I'm still a good person, but
Yeah.
I'm still a great student, and I put in the effort and I trusted my process and I did my best, then you're in a really good spot mentally. But
Yeah.
I know a lot of collegiate athletes have a lot of trouble with that.
Yeah. I feel like it's almost like it's not avoidable. I wish it was, just because when you step onto this campus, you're with your teammates all the time. Anytime you're doing anything extracurricular, I mean, you're with your teammates, because a lot of the times, I don't know if you guys get to campus early, but let's say for soccer, you get to campus early. So your first friends ever are your teammates. So let's say you did have a bad game. If you want to blow off some steam, it's with the same guys that like, oh my gosh, I missed a pass to him. And like, he's probably upset with me because now we lost the game. So it's a hard thing. One trick I will say for anybody out there listening, when you're able to make friends with students that aren't athletes, that helps tremendously. Because that's what I started doing the year I got injured, my junior year. And there would be times I'd have a bad game. And they would be like, man, I didn't even know you played. And hearing that's like, wow, they really
Right.
didn't care. And it's just like, wow, so they are with me because I'm a person. So that's just a life hack for any and all of you athletes watching the show. Another thing that I wanted to ask you, you won a national champion, which is big time. Did you do that your first year coming in?
Sophomore year.
Sophomore year. Okay, so what was the build up and when did you guys set your targets on? Let's go to the top. What was that whole journey like for you guys?
Yeah, freshman year, the buildup was a lot of people on the outside told us, hey, this is your rebuilding year. There's a lot of
Okay.
people that are redshirting, like your best players aren't going to be on the team. And coming in, I was like, okay, well, I'm the starting shortstop. I don't just want to be like a filler player. So I got a ton of reps. Like all the talk was about the next year. So
Yeah.
it almost felt like the season was 2 seasons long because it was all about the following one. So
Yeah.
really, really cool. Our main pitcher, Danielle Laurie, was a Canadian Olympian. She redshirted my freshman year. So when she came back, it was just like, dang, that's like another level of competitor. That's another level of teammate that I hadn't experienced yet. And it really makes you grow up really fast when you're surrounded by, on my sophomore year team, we had like 9 seniors.
Wow.
And as a sophomore, you're like, all right, there's literally no pressure on me because all these people have been waiting for this time. So really cool atmosphere.
And then when you guys actually reached the champion, what were some of the emotions? Because I mean, it literally does not, for a collegiate sport, you did it. And congratulations on that.
Yeah.
Like, what are those feelings? Is it like, man, everything paid off? Or is it, like, tell me. I never got there, so I'm super curious to hear from a national champion.
Yeah, no, playing in the championship series, there was so much like joy and so much emotion inside your body because it's not just you as a collegiate athlete. It's like your entire career building up from the
Hmm.
time where you started your sport at 11. You're like, this is all I've ever wanted. Personally, I had a really great tournament. So I was like, wow, oh, this is me now. It's almost like I'm fulfilling every single sports fantasy that I had had. And I remember before the last pitch, I'm looking around the infield. I played third base. I'm looking around the infield at my friends, like you said, like your best friends that you're going out with, you're going to class with, you're going to 5 a.m. weights and conditioning
Yeah.
and doing everything. And you're like looking around, just going, holy cow, like we actually did it. And then when the last pitch happens, you throw your glove in the air, you dog pile, and you kind of black out for a second. But it's one of the coolest feelings ever.
I mean, I can't imagine. Again, once again, congratulations for that. So, when you reach such a moment, it's probably hard, and you mentioned it earlier, your identity is, let's say, meshed into sport, right? So, when you're also at a really, really good academic school like a University of Washington, when you look around with your classes and things like that, when your peers are taking regular jobs and, they are kind of getting ready for graduation, things like that, how did you handle that transition and what made you be like, okay, now rather, let's say, get a job, let's go make this a career? Let's go and become a professional. What was that transition? And did your coaching staff have any play in that at all?
That's a really good question. Right after I graduated, I was actually really burned out from softball. So
Okay.
I didn't go right into making my own business. I didn't go right into coaching either. I was in my head going, oh, I need to figure this out. I need to fill this void that was softball with a job that I'm passionate about. So I actually got an interview at the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center with a call
Okay.
center. And it was a huge departure from sports, right? You're at a
Yeah.
desk. That job started at 5 a.m. Pacific time because it's an East Coast job. So you get there in the dark. I'm working in Seattle. It rains all the time. You're talking about cancer. And it was like, I had that like immediately into real world and I just did not like it. Right. I
Yeah.
was at that job for I think 6 months and I
Okay.
said, I need to leave.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I I moved back home to California and I started volunteer coaching at UC Riverside,
Okay.
got a job at Loyola Marymount, and coaching ended up happening. I ended up starting my own business after that. But
Got you.
yeah, right after college, I think a lot of kids are going, well, what do I do now? And I guess the push is to want to love something that you love just as much as sport or like
Mhm.
have a purpose because it wasn't ever, yeah, there's days you don't want to wake up. There's days you don't want to show up and go to practice. But once you're there, it's like, the best thing ever. Like you don't have to
100%.
think about wanting to go another hour in your sport. Like when you get to a real job, you're like, oh, I wish I could just go home right now.
Yeah.
But very, very different from sport life. But so many lessons learned going
Of
through that whole
course.
process.
What advice would you give to a lot of athletes that, a lot of them are still in season or the seasons are about to, commence, but they will feel this transition. And I can't describe how monumental it is because especially when you're playing at that elite level, you have lived your dream already, right? Where again, like a person like you won a national championship, you were at probably at the time the one of the best softball programs. So you're living that dream. So when you are trying to navigate that transition, it's hard because you have your outside sources saying, find something that you're passionate about, right? When you've already had that passion. Find something that you can wake up and do every single day. You've been doing that for 4 years. And now try and find the intertraditional sense where it's really, really hard. So there's a lot of athletes that go through this process. This is one of, the core founders of why I wanted to start this show. What advice would you have to make that process a little bit easier for them? Or is the most growth going to come from not knowing and it being extremely hard?
Both. But I do
Well,
have some advice. Just to speak on the second thing that you said, it is so important to feel the unknown and then eventually be able to look back and go, hey, it was okay.
okay.
But that's only going to take time and patience to like
Mm,
be able to see that like with 2020 vision. Piece of advice I would say is if you have the opportunity to continue playing, continue playing. Like
okay.
you are so young and this time is it's going to go faster than you think. So I had the opportunity to go play in Switzerland for a summer.
Yeah, I
I
saw
would never
that.
have another summer off, right? So yeah, go and make those opportunities happen. No matter how small like the pay is initially, like who cares? You're young, you're going to be okay. You are already head and shoulders above a lot of the people that aren't athletes because you've got a ton of leadership skills, you've got things on your resume that nobody else does. And a lot of people have their college paid for, so they're not in debt. So
Yeah.
in terms of making this experience last, go for it. And secondly, if you're done and burned out of your sport and you're like, what do I do now? There's not a wrong answer. This is what kind of held me up, like right in my senior year, just thinking, what is the answer? What do I do now? I don't want to do the wrong thing. And the best piece of advice I got was actually from my head coach when she said, there's no wrong answer. There's no right answer. There's just the path that you choose and the lessons that are associated with that path that you take. So right after school, I said yes to a ton of things because I had to learn what all those things would mean. And eventually you'll see you only know once you try something. There's a lot of people that just get stuck. It doesn't matter where you live. I was going to say living at home, but you can still have opportunities when you're living with your parents or whatever, but they get stuck in one spot because they're afraid to make a choice and just go choose a ton of things before you're 25. And almost none of them will have like detrimental consequences.
Yeah. So take risk. I love that. I love that. So after, when you were playing in that summer in Switzerland, because then you came back and got into coaching, did you always know like, hey, maybe coaching's kind of the route for me? Or how did you come across that self-discovery? Because it's completely different. And I was reading up on you. You said growing up, you were a little bit shy, right? And especially in the sport like softball, that won't fly at all, So I found it interesting. Like, oh, that's a story I want to unpack. So please share with us.
Yeah, I never grew up thinking, oh, I'm going to coach. I'm going to be this person that speaks out for the quiet kids and uses a social media platform to elevate my brand. Never ever thought it. But I guess the real eye-opening moment I had was I was part of a clinic group called The Package Deal, and we were comprised of 4 very different personalities. We each had our own clinic that we ran: pitchers, catchers, hitters, and defense. I did the defenders. And originally when we started, we didn't even have a defense clinic because us growing up, that wasn't a thing that people like really practiced. It wasn't like an isolated practice that you would have. So in this clinic, I was really forced to kind of speak up more and say, hey, this is important because XYZ. And I found that it was really important for me to do that because if I didn't, there's a large portion of kids that never could relate to any of the other personalities, right? There's a lot of kids that only think that, oh, I can be a leader if I'm loud and I like attention and I like the spotlight. But majority of kids really aren't like that. Majority of people, I would think, are more like, okay, if I'm in an unknown situation, if I'm here to learn, my instinct isn't going to be to go first and like have my eyes up. Majority of us are kind of like, all right, I'm just going to kind of wait for direction for lack of better terms. So I think I fell into coaching because I felt like there was a need to represent like those type of people. And also there's so many lessons that I learned that I wouldn't want kids to fall in the trap of some of the ways that I was thinking or some of the things that I did. And that ultimately just became my purpose for coaching, is like to try to make the kids that came after me better than I was.
Okay, got you. So we started this segment on the show. It's called DMs Open. So if you could send one message via social media to every single person that's maybe that shy person that's struggling with that, but they also really want to have an impact, but it's nervous. It's nerve-wracking. They don't want to stand out, but you want to have that impact. What's one message that you would send them to give them a little bit of encouragement?
One message.
Yeah. Sorry, put you on the spot there. You got it.
No matter how you feel right now in this moment, you are going to figure it out.
Okay.
And I think the best thing that you can practice right now is some better self-talk. That's the thing that always used to hold me back. That's the thing that ultimately made me keep quiet and hesitant, was this kind of voice in my head that was saying, hey, don't look stupid, don't do this, don't do that. But if you practice that kind of empowering self-talk, it's going to become a habit, and ultimately you're going to be your own biggest asset instead of your biggest enemy.
Okay, so I'm really curious about that. It sounds so simple, right? But it might like it sounds super simple. What are, let's say, some 2 practical steps that listening to your message right now to start reinforcing that positive self-talk? Like what's some tips or practice that I could start today? Right now.
Today,
Yes.
for self-talk, I would say what matters right now. I think a lot of times we have thousands, millions of thoughts even that we never act on, that are kind of in the back of our minds. And a lot of them are about the past or about the future.
Okay.
But in reality, what's going to help you the most is focusing on what matters now. A lot
Yeah.
of times for athletes, this is who's around me right now and what is the energy that I'm giving off currently in this moment. What I like to focus on is like, how am I going to be the best teammate for the person that's standing right next to me?
Okay.
What's my eye contact like? What's my body language like? And if I'm focusing on that and the energy that I'm giving off, I'm less aware, or I'm less focused on me overanalyzing my last at bat or the last play or something that I did weird that I'm like hyper fixated on. Okay, don't focus on that. Focus on what's important right now.
Okay, I love that. I love that. And thank you so much for sharing. For anybody who's listening, again, now you guys know how to get started immediately. Go improve. So, when it comes to the package deal, I love that what you guys created, but I'm super curious on it's almost like when I was doing my notes, it's like the assembling of like the Avengers, right? You said that you guys all had different skills, you guys were all in different areas, but that means, when the Avengers come about, that means there's a massive problem that needs to be addressed. When you guys were coming together, what was the pain point that you guys were trying to solve?
We were trying to solve how to deliver information to kids across the country in a way that delivered kind of our elite knowledge
Hmm.
to the masses. So
Okay,
at the time, there were a lot of softball instruction that was kind of dated, and it
gotcha.
was, oh, this is how kind of passed down. Just for example, like when I learned how to throw a ball, you like put your hand back this way, and it
Hmm.
was okay, touch the ball to the wall. And since then, that has been disproven. It's like science has shown this is, proven to lead to like Tommy John surgery. Like
Oh,
it's not very good.
yeah, no bueno.
So our whole mission was to deliver really elite information, but also get the kids moving and get kids excited again about training instead of softball being this boring sport that people just stood around. So we wanted
Gotcha.
to help the information, help the coaching style so that kids were more involved and actually loved training instead of just got bored with it and they weren't as mentally engaged with it as well.
Okay, and how did you guys find each other? Did you guys know each other before, or again, because it was like this uniting of forces? Did you like? Yeah, yeah. I'm curious
Yeah,
about that.
softball's it's a really small world. I
Okay.
think I had known all of these people like individually, but we weren't like friends. And I
Okay.
think probably the uniting force behind this whole thing was all of us like after you graduate from college, a lot of people will just give lessons. So we are all like in our own areas giving lessons or clinics.
Gotcha.
And I think it was Jen and Amanda who were really big in social media at the time. So
Hmm.
they saw more of this kind of national need instead of
Okay.
just, okay, well, we could all just be giving lessons in clinics forever, or we could come together and make this huge impact.
And when did you guys decide, like, okay, because you guys had your content, but you guys put it all within an app. What was the decision process to be like, okay, because creating an app it's this whole another thing, you know?
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
Yeah, honestly, we were the only ones doing what we were doing, like
Hmm.
posting massively on social media, traveling across the country. So we had a lot of opportunities. So that was a company approached us and said, "Hey, we've got the engineers, we have the technology. All we need is kind of your input." And we're like, "Okay, this
Okay.
seems like a really good thing."
Yeah.
So it's like not a great story, but just when you start doing things that nobody else is doing, like
Hmm.
the opportunity is going to follow that.
Okay, got you, got you. No, I loved it because I was checking out the app. I was like, this is so cool. Especially started on social media, and then now it kind of came into something where it was like you can like hold it in your hands. What and
Hmm.
this is because I do a bit of social media as well. What was it like for you? Because I don't know if you were also into the whole social media space before you got involved when you were filming the content and making this whole catalog where any person, anytime that wants to learn softball and get really good at that elite level, they're now watching you. So you're having to talk to the camera, you're having to do drills. What was that
Yeah.
whole process like for you?
That was very different. If I watched those videos back, it's like cringy because I
Okay.
had not been on camera a lot, and I
Yeah.
just remember like doing several takes and just going, "Man, I wish I was way better on camera," and I
Yeah.
just didn't feel prepared at all. And now I look at my videos on my own social media and I'm like, "Dang, if I would have had this kind of, not even skill, but just
Mhm.
experience and comfort on a camera, the app would have been so much better."
Yeah. Well, I would say like with that, it only comes with repetitions. So you were
Hmm.
already on the right path. Is that app something, or I guess this program that you guys are still doing, or you guys have kind of, gone and doing your own things now?
Yeah, we're definitely doing our own things. I think the app is still alive
Yeah,
and
it's still
does
live.
stuff, but
Download it today.
good. But yeah, we don't input new things. We all have kind of our own businesses that we're run. So I have a membership of my own. It's called Defense Club. And I've got like all my new drills on there. I've got a whole new platform. So
Gotcha.
yeah, we're all like off running, doing our own race. Ever since 2020 shut down all the clinics, we've been really, really hard at work on our own stuff.
Okay, got you. And I love that because that means, you are the definition of a student athlete turned entrepreneur. And that is, again, one of the
Yes.
big pivot points where I became obsessed with saying, man, student athletes are actually really tailored to go out and do their own thing, start their own business. And you've done that. So when you were, I guess, have made that realization, what was that process, being able to look in the mirror like, I'm my own boss, I'm my own entrepreneur, and, you marched your own beat.
It's been, as you know this, it's a long, long journey and it never really ends. And it's one that a lot of people don't really, they can't understand it
Hmm.
because it's a huge risk to be like, you know what? This all depends on me. My livelihood depends on me. Where I live, how I'm going to pay my bills,
Hmm.
it's on me. And that kind of responsibility is scary for a lot of people. That's why there's a lot of majority of people are like, hey, I'll work for a company. I'll get my
Yeah.
benefits. I'm good. But yeah, right now I'm in a position where if my lessons don't work or my online stuff doesn't work or if my social media flops, it's like, all right, I've only got myself to
Yeah.
not to blame, but just like it is on me. So it's exciting. It's one of those things where I do it for freedom of time, freedom of energy,
Hmm.
like that freedom piece. And I know that's why a lot of people jump into it, but it takes
Yeah.
a lot more than wanting that. It takes understanding websites, understanding marketing, knowing that it's not just you giving the lessons. It's not just you being good. It's not just you knowing the information. It's how do you deliver it, how you connect with individuals, how you market your business, and how you consistently keep going and showing up after months and years
Of
and
doing it.
then continue to reinvent yourself so that it's still exciting for others that are just discovering you. It's a lot of work, but
Yeah.
I do agree. I do agree with you. Athletes are perfectly suited to jump into this. It's just a matter of, I think, if you know it's going to be a lot of work, sometimes it scares some people away. Athletes don't shy away from hard work, but I think if I knew how much work it was going to be, I would have thought about it a
Okay.
lot more. But I
Okay.
think being naive almost was a strength of mine because I loved
Yeah.
it so much. You just jump in.
I feel like a lot of athletes, they are very well tailored for the entrepreneurship route. But when you go to college, when you go to school, there's nothing really encouraging you to do that. If there's a list of habits to help athletes really get ahead and jumpstart their entrepreneur journey, give them words of encouragement so that maybe they don't have to go through the same pain points that you had to go through when you were starting this journey. What would those pieces of advice be for them?
I would say you don't have to major in business. You just don't. That major is pretty difficult and it's like highly backed with math and all that stuff, which what I wasn't good at. But get a marketing class under your belt. Learn about Facebook ads. Learn about writing. Writing's huge. Get some experience behind a camera and just see like what you like about it. Because, I mean, once you get to a certain point, you can hire people to do the skills that you don't like to do or the
Hmm.
skills that you're not very good at. But
Yeah.
until then, you're like a one man show. I think trying to educate yourself on some of the back end things that are actually going to sell your product is a good thing to do. Don't spend 50 grand on branding because that's not what you need to do. That was a mistake I made. Just like, oh, people don't know who
No.
I am. I need to spend a lot of money like to show them. And it's like, no, you just need to go and do this thing and
Yeah.
branding can be like a different font. Like it doesn't need to be that crazy thing.
Pain point
Yeah,
guys don't
there's a
do
lot of
this.
mistakes you'll make.
Of course, but that's also how you learn. And again, I love your journey so
Hmm.
much. So after you guys had, I guess, the Avengers disassembled, when you landed on defense lessons, how did that come about, and how have you continued to find joy in that new endeavor and the millions of people that you're helping out with that?
Defense lessons that, I mean, that's what I've been doing since 2014. It didn't really come to the forefront until after we kind of disassembled. That was a business that I was like slowly picking up. And when I started in 2014, it was just me giving lessons, and we always did group lessons, but it was like maybe me and one other coach and we had like 4 to 6 kids an hour.
Okay.
And now we're averaging more like 10 to 14 kids an hour. And I brought in other coaches so that when I do travel out of state, the lessons don't stop. We can be
Yeah.
consistent because now other coaches have taken over. Yeah, it's a slow process, but I've been very, very fortunate to always have been making money because I lived also below my means. It wasn't like,
Okay.
oh, I own my own business now, let me go get this sweet car. It's like, I think I've bought maybe 2 cars in the last 10 years because in my mind, I'm like, I need to spend all the money that I've made reinvesting in the business, getting the help that I need, and making this sustainable.
I love that. And the defense lesson, is that your main business right now, or you kind of working on? Because it seems like, you're up to a bunch of things all the time. But if that's the main focus,
Yeah.
let me know.
Yeah, I'm up to maybe too many things.
Okay.
But
Many
defense lessons is
entrepreneurs
for
are,
sure the
so.
main thing. Yes, that's the main thing.
Okay.
I'm also on my second book that I'm writing, and that's
Wow.
about like the mental and emotional side of sport. So I think that's more just a resource for all the kids and families that I encounter. And then my last thing that I do is just all the online stuff and
Yeah.
videos and trying to make that a membership. But I think the thing people most like is us in person, for sure.
Okay, got you. And now we have to talk about it because, again, it's helped you out so much. Social media. There's a lot of people that are on the fence about it. How has social media helped you in your business and entrepreneurial endeavors?
It's just been hugely critical. Like if I didn't have social media, I'm not sure how I would get customers. So it's a huge marketing tool. It's also made me more concise about what my messaging actually is to my audience, especially with people's attention spans. Like if I can't get a point across in the first 5 seconds, the video is not good.
Yeah.
And then how that translates with me and kids, it's like you have to get their attention or else you're not a good coach for them at the time. And so that can go back and forth and people can disagree. And I'm sure people do. They're like, well, if the kid can't listen for more than 5 seconds, they're not into it. They're not passionate. It's like, yes. And
Yeah.
we live in a time where kids' brains have already been conditioned by social media and by their phones. So we got to get with it as well. So it's been super helpful, not just for marketing and getting people to see me and what we do and what we're about, but also just in coaching skills, it's helped me.
You said that when you were first getting started, you weren't super comfortable with all the camera stuff. So again, there's a lot of people that are consuming the content, right? But they're scared to get started. What advice would you give them to pick up the camera? And it can really change people's lives. But a lot of people, they never get past that fear.
Just, you have to do it. you just have to do it. It doesn't have to be like this either.
Yeah.
Like I don't necessarily like picking up and like doing a selfie and talking to myself and just like wondering how other people are going to perceive me. There's a lot of different types of content now, and some of my favorite is just kind of filming B-roll of yourself. Like set up a camera, type at your computer. I don't know, if you're a coach, film your lessons. You don't have to like tell people what you're doing, just show them what you're doing. But the more that you have reps, like you were saying before, the better you're going to get at it, no matter what.
Gotcha. I love that. So now we are at the exciting part of the episode. So when we started, we had you react to someone's hot takes. Now it's your turn for the next guest to give your crazy hot sports takes. And remember, this is supposed to be something that 99% of people will not agree with and be like, you are crazy for thinking that. But that's why it's your hot take.
Let's see if I have one. I saw a reel this morning, so I guess it's top of my mind. But
Okay.
my hot take is that we don't have to be pushing females to be in every type of sport, especially not men's professional sports. Like, I don't think that needs to be on the agenda of every professional league everywhere. Like, it is okay for men to coach men. I don't know if that's a hot take or not.
No, that I would say that's a very hot take. That's a very hot take. And I can't wait to see what the next guest thinks is your hot take. Morgan, thank you so much for coming on the show. I hope you enjoyed our conversation as much as I have. Your story is amazing. Keep killing it. I keep seeing you on everything softball, so you are doing amazing. Thank you so much for coming on Live with Ty. Hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. This is awesome.
Okay, you take care. Bye.
All right, bye-bye.
There you guys have it. Another episode of Live with Ty recorded. Again, her story is amazing. when it comes to conquering fears, when it comes to doing much of anything, she didn't have much advice on the steps how to do it, but her message was clear. Take that risk and get it done. Once again, that was another episode of Live with Ty. Until next time, I'm out. Peace.